We're building Undertale in Minecraft on a giant scale, and today we're going to be covering the runes, talking about the progress and development so far, and what's to come next. Now to get everyone up to speed, let's talk about all the runes we have so far. Naturally, we've got the very first room, we've got the classic bridge room, we've basically got most of the rooms aside from specific little details. So yeah, rooms like this are very clearly not finished and are getting redesigned. This room is, okay, there's a bit more than just little details, but it is the save point room where you frolic in the leaves. If we're ignoring all the things that aren't actually finished, we can fly through most of the ruins. We can say mostly completed areas, obviously barring the entire tutorial house and city, but that's its own mega build if we're going to be completely honest. I also wanted to go over a little bit of the lore behind the ruins as to why we've built it the way we have, because there is a whole other section up here that is not canon. And the reason for that is we've built the ruins, especially the earlier part of the ruins, so the monsters are able to watch over possible humans that have fallen down into the underground. Because in game, the monsters fled to the end of the cavern after fleeing them after getting sealed in the barrier, which led them to the classic room we all know, the first entryway into the ruins. But can you imagine the monster's surprise? They ran to the furthest end of the cavern to avoid humans, and whoop, there's another hole humans can fall into. So naturally, they decided to start building some puzzles and things to stop humans from freely getting through. Now, because monsters also lived here, they couldn't make the puzzles too difficult for the sake of everything has to be like passable. But the puzzles add enough time for the monsters to get aware of what's happening and to get a good judgment of the humans that are possibly falling through the ruins. Hence these little lookout points at the top here. You can easily see exactly what's going on with pretty easily not getting spotted yourself. Which is why there is all of said puzzles all spread out, especially at the starting part of the ruins. Of course, there's not really any puzzles once we hit the city and Toriel's house, because let's be honest, if you managed to get through all the puzzles and stuff and got to the city, it's a bit late for that anyway. Now, I really like our ruins design. I do think it really captures the same energy and also expands upon it, so it's very clearly a much more open area compared to the small parts we see in game, and it's just a lot more immersive as a world. However, there is one big issue with the entire build, especially the ruins, is that it consists of almost 3 blocks, and that is it. These are the 3 blocks that make up the ruins. 4 if we're spicy enough to include some leaves. You know, while it does work, and it was probably the best we could build with at the start, the ruins is almost 5 years old now, which is kind of mad to think about, I won't lie. Now, there is ways to incorporate a lot more colour into the ruins compared to what we've done, and you can definitely see it as clear as day in the cave system that Ashton built. But there is one issue with this design. While I adore Ashton's designing, if I had to describe her and designing things, hey, I just came to check on that room that I asked you to work. Oh my god, it's great. However, there is one big issue with it, and that is far too colourful for our ruins design. I don't know how Ashton did it, but she's managed to build the cave so that it looks really nice in this really weird stripy pattern, so the colours really complement each other well, especially on dim lighting. But the moment you get rid of the colours from this, suddenly the shape of the cave looks really weird. But if you get rid of the shape of the cave, suddenly it's just extremely colourful without any coherence. She has mastered a design that is so perfect, but it doesn't work anywhere else. And the biggest issue with making Ashton's palette work with our build is the fact that we don't have the available shapes to work with. We have a lot more solid walls and a lot more non-cavey areas, and even when there is a cave, it's not a stripy design, so it just, yeah, doesn't work too well, does it? So it's been an absolute nightmare trying to find little ways we can incorporate the different stripiness and colours from Ashton's build without ruining the shape of ours. And that's when we realised something. While I do love our ruins and it has a very special place in my heart, it doesn't lend itself well to terraforming. You can tell that each wall we've built has this sort of pillar and mess of a circle in between to have a sort of detailed look. But that's not how walls work. Walls don't just bend in on themselves when they're made of bricks. It doesn't make any sense. And after months and months of trying to figure out a way to incorporate a lot more colours without getting rid of the core aspects of both ruins palettes, we finally found the solution. If you come in here, this is the new and improved ruins palette. having the little pops of colour that really stand out and give that extra life to the ruins, without it interrupting the shape of our original ruins design. Except it kinda did, I'm kinda lying here. You see, the big thing was the shape of the walls and the fact that they were just a crumbling mess before. So, what if we designed the wall so it was more like, well, a wall, I guess. I decided to try keep the original palette, but change the shape of the wall slightly, so if we were gonna break it, it would be more like the middle part has crumbled away as opposed to a giant circle. You can really embrace the terraforming aspect without actually ruining the shape of the cave and making it look too jarring. And I think it's become one of my favourite parts of the build to explore. I mean, just looking here, this was one of the first palette tests that we did with this new style, and combining the more modern version of our palette with the original version of Ashen's Cave, neither one stands out too much that we have to get rid of one, and I really like that. Plus, can we just take a minute to appreciate this? We've only been building for a few days with the new palette, but look at this room compared to what it was before. And we can actually incorporate little details like patches of golden flowers to represent save points, now that we're including things like dirt and stuff into the palette. Oh, it's so... oh, look how cozy it is. I'm just really obsessed with the atmosphere that we've captured. Now that you've seen how the ruins has been built, we can get a much better idea of how to build a lot of areas with a lot more detail. So yes, while the ruins isn't entirely finished, there's a bunch that we're going to be slowly updating along the way. Now, how about we talk about Toriel's house for a brief second? Toriel's house, basically, its own build at this point. We have the entire ruins and we have Toriel's house. These are two different things. The way we've ended up going for it is that, one, we're going to be basing Toriel's house on the art book design a lot more than the normal house, because Toby Fox actually intended it for it to be a cozy looking house, and in order to make it fit the palette without blending in, we've decided to go with this one. We were not doing well with designing a brick house that looked cozy. I mean, maybe we could do it better now, but honestly, I just prefer this design a lot better. It actually feels like Toriel's house. When you go inside, you can get a better sense of the atmosphere that actually blends with the exterior now. And the cave itself, obviously, we've got to build up more bits of walls and stuff to have it blend in with the original room. We're planning to maybe try experiment with the sort of stripy design that you see in the sort of mesa biome, and have it sort of replicate that in the walls here, because it's a lot harder to implement the stripy stuff when it's on a, dare I say it, a giant scale. There's a bunch of palette stuff we are trying to figure out with this room still. We'll cover all that in the actual Toriel house video, whenever we get round to that. And the ruined city is just as unfinished as ever. We've done a couple building design tests, but other than that, yeah, it's probably going to be one of the last things we work on because it's almost ambitious as the entirety of Waterfall. So in summary, we've got a bunch of ruins rooms that we're going to be slowly updating over the course of the next few updates. Some you can definitely see in the next world download in a few days. So with all of that said about the ruins and what's to come with everything there, we'll next be taking a look at Snowdon and all of the changes and things that we're going to be doing there. There's not quite as much to talk about there, but there's still a few things that we need to catch up on. So I'll see you in whenever I do that.